everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Low Show. I'm your host, Lauren O'Brien, and today we are in for a great episode. The WNBA draft took place this past Monday. I'm going to be talking about my takeaways, who won the draft, what team should have done. I'm going to spotlight my top 5 teams of the draft. I'm also going to talk about the Golden State Valkyries being the newest expansion franchise. And yeah, so let's get into it. My winners of the draft is the Washington Mystics. They had 3 first-round picks, and I think they executed it so well. They went and they got Sonia Citron, a shooting guard out of Notre Dame, at the 3rd pick. She's shot 37% from 3 at Notre Dame. We know what she's capable of. She's a 6-foot guard, has decent size, can shoot the 3, and especially because the Mystics lost, Ariel Adkins and Maisha Hines-Allen, and they traded Carly Samuelson on draft night, they're going to need a shooter, and I think selecting her at 3rd overall is a great pick for them. Then they went out and they got Kiki Iriafen out of USC at the 4th pick. She is a great stretch 4. I'd say the Mystics probably have the best front court in the league, considering how young they are and their potential. They have Shakira Austin, Aaliyah Edwards, even the veteran leadership of Stephanie Dolson, who can step out, hit that 3, and Emily Engsler, who is a beast from Louisville. She kind of flew under the radar for a little bit, didn't really make much noise, but has kind of found her own over in Washington. Kiki Iriafen is great. She's able to stretch that 4. We've seen what she is capable of at Stanford. She had 41 points in that Elite 8 game not too long ago. And even with Juju Watkins out, I think she stepped up a lot in the NCAA tourney. I really, really like that pick. Washington is in a rebuilding phase right now. They have a new head coach, Sydney Johnson, who was an assistant for the Chicago Sky, who I think is excellent. It's great with player development. And they also picked up a new GM. Now, drafting Kiki was a smart move as they lost Elena Del Don as she officially announced her retirement. But one cool thing I saw with her is that she was actually in the Mystics front office helping them make picks. And I think Elena Del Don was such a high basketball IQ player. She'll be great for the scout. It's sad to see her retire, but her back injuries were just too bad. But I'm a huge Elena Del Don fan. She was my favorite player when she was at the Mystics. I'm sad to see her go, but I think this new role that she found in the Mystics organization is really beneficial to them. Then they did the best thing I think they could have, and they picked up a point guard at the 6th pick with Georgia Amore. And I've talked about Georgia a lot on this podcast. She's my favorite player in college basketball. She's such a pass-first point guard mentality, but she can also get to the bucket. She's so great creating space for herself. Her step back is so nasty, and she's just going to be such a great pickup for the Mystics. Super great in the pick and roll. Just think of it. Sonia Citron, who's a beast, put her in the corner. You got Kiki setting that screen, who can pop, who can roll, and they got Georgia, who's such just a beast. She's great in the mid-range, honestly a 3-level scorer, but also is a great passer. So this Mystics team is going to be really fun to watch next year. The Washington Mystics have the most cap space in the WNBA. And this is super important because 105 out of the 156 players in the league will be free agents next year. Now, why is this important? The CBA expires on October 31st after this season ends, and players are going to be looking to get more money. Now, with the addition of their 3 main rookies, Amore, Iriafen, and Citron, they could sign them to these rookie deals, meaning that they're going to have a lot more money to go out and grab somebody in the future. The draft is going to be so great again next year. They can try to draft, but I think bringing in a player with a little bit more veteran leadership that has been to the playoffs before will be very good for this young Mystics team. Now, if they pick up a star wing, for example, I think that'll be great for them. Now, I don't want to look past their 2nd-round pick, Lucy Olson out of Iowa. We know she was the successor to Caitlin Clark, transferring in from Villanova. And she was great under head coach Jen Jensen. She was great in the mid-range, she can shoot the ball. Now, I hope she makes the team. They need more depth, the guard position, so I think she will. I'm really happy for Lucy. I wasn't sure if she was going to get drafted, and yeah, I was joking with someone. I said, watching the draft makes me feel like a proud mother, because I, get to watch all of my favorite players that I've watched over 4 or 5 years in college basketball finally achieve their dreams, and it makes me so happy. Elaborating a little bit more on the free agency situation of next season, the one thing I could see hindering the Mystics' ability to sign a star player is just their lack of facilities, and they don't really have that big of a fan base. I mean, even if you look at social media, they have the least amount of followers on Instagram. They don't have a lot of season ticket holders for that franchise. They've kind of fallen off since they won the championship back in 2019. But now with the league exploding, prior to this year, they haven't really grabbed anybody being a fan favorite. We've been able to see what drafting a fan favorite will do for these teams. I mean, when the Aces drafted Kate Martin, their fan base just exploded. And obviously the Aces had won the championship the year before, and they were a great team. But I think just drafting a player that has so many fans behind them, somebody who has a lot of NIL and is a very likable personality, I think is super big for these teams. And the Mystics just never really grabbed one of those players. I mean, we've seen yes, Caitlin Clark is the GOAT of this generation, and we saw what she did to Indiana. I think drafting Citron, Iriefin, and Amor cover 3, and Olsen for that matter, cover 4 different really big women's basketball markets. I mean, all the USC fans are going to want to see what Kiki's doing out in Washington. Notre Dame is a great women's basketball school. They have a lot of people come to their games. They're going to want to go to Mystics games to see what Citron has going on. Iowa is a huge women's basketball school. We saw what they did for Kate Martin and Caitlin Clark, and I think they'll do the same to support Lucy Olsen, considering that she was such a important part to their team's success last season. And Georgia Amor, being from Australia, kind of brings in a more international audience. Obviously, she was so fun to watch at Virginia Tech and Kentucky these past 5 years. If you're a point guard listening to it, I would study Georgia Amor. Phenomenal facilitator, phenomenal scorer. Honestly, my favorite player in this year's draft. So, credit to the Mystics for such a great draft this year. They did not have a 3rd round pick. I just want to get that out there real quick. Now, moving on, the second team that I think won the draft this year was the Seattle Storm. They had the 2nd pick in this year's draft and went out and they grabbed Dominique Malonga. And I want you guys to remember that name. She's 19 years old, is 6'6", has a 7'1" wingspan out of France. And what's so great about drafting these international players is that they don't have to get a degree. They don't have to have 3 years of college or be 21 years old like American players do to be drafted. So they're able to grab Dominique Malonga, who's frankly the female version of Victor Wembanyama, have her in their organization for a couple years, really work to develop her, and she's gonna be a beast. Now, their front court next year is probably the 2nd best in the league. They have Ezi Magbagor, who is an outstanding defensive player. I think she's one of the more underrated players in this league. And they have Nneka Ogwumike, who obviously is one of the legends of the WNBA. And with her aging, she's 34 years old now, I think it was smart for them to go out and grab Dominique Malonga. In the next couple rounds, they went out and they really focused on shooting, which I think was their biggest need of this draft. They would have been fine to skip over Dominique Malonga and pick up a better shooter instead, but I think, yes, they drafted Malonga, which is an outstanding pick, but in the later rounds, they were able to pick up some shooting. Now, at the 29th pick, they got Madison Connor, who I've talked about a little bit on this podcast before, and she's just an assassin from the 3-point line. Now, that's super needed after losing Sammy Whitcomb, and also they need to build guard depth, right? Skylar Diggins-Smith is getting up there in age. You don't know when she's going to retire. They lost Whitcomb, right? Horston and Nika Mule are out all of next year because of ACL tears. Seattle is smart to then go and pick up Connor, Then in the third round, they got Serena Sundell. And then also in the third round, they picked up Jordan Hobbs out of Michigan. I want to elaborate a little bit more on Serena Sundell. I wasn't very familiar with her game until the Big 12 tournament when I watched her play. And really when I watched them play Kentucky in the second round of the NCAA tournament, that I was like, wow, this girl is great. She's 6'2", is a bigger guard, so she really goes down and she posts up smaller guards, and I think that's going to work for her a lot in this league because everyone in this league is so tall. I think Georgia Amore is such an exception, being 5'6", a little bit smaller guard, able to succeed that well. Most guards you see in the W are 6 feet tall, right? And Sundell being 6'2", her size will help her get on the glass. She can score. We all know that. But I think the best thing about her, and what most people wouldn't guess, she actually led the NCAA in assists per game last season with 7.3. She's able to distribute. She's able to score. I think she was the steal of the draft, being drafted at pick 26. Jordan Hobbs, point guard out of Michigan, again, building for depth, especially because Horston and Newell will be out all season. And I also think it could be smart of them to look at the undrafted players and try to pick up a guard. I mean, Jada Curry from Louisville didn't get drafted. Deja Kelly out of Oregon didn't get drafted. Izzy Higginbottom from Arkansas, who averaged like over 20 points a game, didn't get drafted. Now, I think that could be because of her size. I mean, she's like 5'7"-ish, so that could be why, but I think she could be a good pickup for them, especially if they want to focus more on shooting. They could go pick up Sydney Parrish out of Indiana, Rory Harmon out of Texas. Like, these are some phenomenal guards that didn't get picked up, and I think other teams around the league should look to go grab some of them. And you look at the undrafted list, and it's not uncommon in the WNBA for undrafted players to sign with teams and have a shot at making their team. And the list of this year's undrafted players, I mean, I just mentioned a few, right? Alyssa Utsby also was undrafted. I'm a big fan of her game out of North Carolina. Alexis Markowski was undrafted. I mean, Sydney Fulter, Tamira Poindexter, if you're really looking for shooting. I mean, remember she hit 8 threes in that Kentucky game. You look at players in this league like Erica Wheeler and Kayla Thornton, who are both undrafted, and they've had very successful careers. I mean, Kayla Thornton was a big part, actually, of that bench depth for the New York Liberty to win that championship last year. She did get picked up in the expansion draft by the Golden State Valkyries, so she's going to have to step up to more of a star role this year, just because the Valkyries expansion draft, the quality is not great. You're not going to pick up a star because teams will most likely protect their best players. And talking a little bit more about the Valkyries, I'm going to butcher this name so bad. They drafted Husai out of Lithuania. She's a 6-foot guard, again, because she's foreign. She is 19 years old. The Valkyries, they're able to develop her. I think she can be great. She's more of like a facilitator type of player, which I think will be good. I was a little surprised that the Valkyries didn't grab a post player, considering that in the expansion draft they didn't really take a post presence, and I think the two most valuable positions in the league that a team needs for success is a post player and a point guard. And you think of all the teams that have won the WNBA championship in past years, like Sabrina and Stewie. You think of Plum and Asia. You think of Natasha Cloud and Del Don. You think of Vandersloot and Parker. These post guard duos are crucial for success. And I think the Valkyries were smart to grab Cheyenne Sellers at 17. Now, she's a great guard, and I was surprised she didn't get picked up in that first round. And she's 6'2", great size, can shoot. I understand she's a little bit injury prone, but I think she's going to be a great fit in this league. What I love is that the Golden State Valkyries went out and they drafted Caitlin Chen out of UConn. I was so happy to see her get drafted, and I thought it was really cool when Paige in her interview after being picked was like, "You guys need to draft my girls. You guys need to draft Caitlin Chen." And Aubrey Griffin, and to see them both get drafted was super cool. Gotta love Paige for being such a great teammate. And I think it's super interesting. I think the Valkyries have a great little marketing strategy, like publicity strategy, in getting fan favorite players. As I talked about earlier, what drafting a fan favorite player can do to your franchise. They picked up Kate Martin from the Aces in the expansion draft, and then picking up Caitlin Chen in that third round. The UConn fan base is huge. The Aces fan base, Iowa fan base, whoever, everyone loves Kate Martin. You know, there's going to be a lot of eyes on the Valkyries this season, as they're one of the most, I think, desirable franchises to go to. They play in the Chase Center, which is a phenomenal arena. They have the best facilities, arguably, in the league. They have their own practice facility. There's only 4 teams in the WNBA that have a practice facility. The Storm, the Aces, the Mercury, and the Valkyries. And that just makes it a more desirable location to be. I mean, you think about Unrivaled and the significance there, and players loved it because they had great facilities to train at and work on their game. The Valkyries also have a great fan base. I mean, they sold out their season tickets for not having any really star players. And when they sold their tickets out, the expansion draft hadn't even happened yet. So not even knowing who's on your team, you don't know if your favorite player is going to get grabbed in the expansion draft. Like, the Bay Area is a great basketball town, and we see the love they give the Warriors. And I think they'll do the same for the Valkyries. Moving on, I'm going to talk about the Sky, who's my next draft winner. There was a lot of Euros drafted in this first round, and I'm so sorry that I'm going to mispronounce yet another name. Aja Sivka out of Slovenia, a 6'4", 19-year-old, and man, when I looked up her clips and her highlights, I was so impressed. She's 6'4", coming off of screens, dribble pull-up threes, such a quick release. Kind of like Steph Curry in a way. His release is super fast. Hers is too. I'm going to say she plays like a Euro. She's not really inside. More of a stretch, can stretch the defense out. More of a three-point shooter. This is a phenomenal pickup for the Sky. Now, they're fine on the interior. They have Reese, they have Cardoso. They're okay. To pick up a 6'4" player like Sivka is big for them. Now, again, she's 19. That gives the Sky time to develop. And especially getting their new coach, Tyler Marsh, who is specifically known for how well he develops players, is going to be great for Sivka and the rest of this rookie draft class. After Sivka, they went out and they grabbed Van Lith at pick 11 out of TCU. We all know Haley. Phenomenal 3-on-3 player. Really had a great year at TCU this year. She works so well in the pick and roll. We saw what she was able to do with Sedona Prince at TCU. In her year at TCU, she became more of a point guard. She can facilitate, she can pass, and of course, Van Lith can shoot the ball. This is a great pickup. They went out and they brought back Courtney Vandersloot, who was at the Liberty for a year. Arguably the best Sky point guard of all time. WNBA all-time assist leader, all that. She's a vet. I see her game being very similar to Haley Van Lith's, and Haley Van Lith will be able to learn from her, and I think that'll be so good for her game. And I'm really excited to see what she does. Then they went out and they grabbed Maddie Westfield out of Notre Dame. She kind of played their post player, but I consider her more of like a stretch four. She has great footwork. I think she has a great all-around game around the basket. Can shoot that midi. Just adding some front court depth a little bit. I think she has a better all-around game than Cardoso and Reese, as they're more of back-to-the-basket players. I think that was a really good pickup for the Sky. I just think those 3 picks right there are phenomenal and will really help the Sky team, who's kind of in a little bit of a rebuilding phase. My next winner of the draft is the Dallas Wings. They went out and they drafted Paige Beckers, first overall. Of course, we all knew she was going to be the number 1 overall pick. She's going to be so crucial in taking the load off of Arike. She plays so well with stars. I mean, she didn't complain about, not getting every shot at UConn. She played great with Fudd and was strong, and it'll take a lot off of Arike. Arike had the most unassisted points in the WNBA last year because they didn't really have a point guard aside from her. No one that was really drawing the defense off of Arike so she could go to work. I just know when Arike had help, like Jackie Young and Marina Mabry on that 2018 Notre Dame team, they won the Natty. Not saying the Dallas Wings are going to win the WNBA championship, but I think they're going to be quite successful having the duo of Beckers and Ogunbowale. They grabbed Isaiah James at pick 12 out of NC State. I like this pick a lot. She's a little bit more undersized for guard, but she can shoot, right? And I think I've learned in watching the WNBA is if you're an undersized guard who is not really a point guard, isn't a great passer, you got to be able to shoot. You have to have ridiculous range. And I think Isaiah James is that player. Isaiah James runs the floor so well. I mean, we saw it at NC State. She's able to space the floor. She can hit some threes in transition. I think that'll be big for the wing. They do have shooting in Maddie Siegrist. If you remember her, she's out of Villanova. Great player. Kind of flies under the radar a little bit because she is in Dallas, and Dallas sucked last year and nobody watched them play. But I think having her and Isaiah James will help a lot with their shooting. Now, they have Arike, phenomenal shooter. Points per game, insane, over 25. They don't need to worry about shooting. I was very curious to see who they would grab in the post position. I mean, they lost Satu Sabali this offseason. And they went out and they drafted Aaronette Vonleh out of Baylor, who is super versatile. She can face up. She's got a lot of moves under the basket, rebounds the ball well. I like this pick a lot, actually. And I think bringing in players in free agency like Dejanay Carrington, who is a phenomenal on-ball defender, and Alyssa Smith that brings in more size underneath, this Wings team is dangerous. I don't think they win the ship this year, but they're going to make a run in the playoffs. And my final draft winner, the Los Angeles Sparks. In the first round, they got Sarah Ashley Barker at the 9th pick out of Alabama. I think Sarah Ashley Barker is the most underrated player in all of college basketball. You may be asking, Lauren, why? I never heard of her. What's her game like? What does she do? Well, she was a 2-time All-SEC player at Alabama. What? The SEC, that's the best conference in college basketball. Yes, and she was All-SEC first team 2 years in a row, and we don't know her name. Now, I think she really got onto the scene after her 45-point massive game against Maryland in the tourney, and I think that brought a lot of eyes onto her. She's a great 3-and-D player. We all know she could shoot. That's her strong suit. But she was also the primary defender at Alabama in the SEC. So she was guarding the team's best player every game, which is, you're playing top 25 teams every single night. I am in love with this pick. I think she'll pair so well with Kelsey Plum. I think with Rakia Jackson, Brink. Oh, this is such a phenomenal pick. I see her more of like a Sophie Cunningham type player who, spent most of her career in Phoenix but is now on the Fever with Caitlin Clark. Super close player comp. Then they got Sinai Fagan out of South Carolina. Drafting one of Dawn Staley's players is always a safe bet, right? With the unknown status of Cameron Brink for next year, because she's recovering with her ACL injury, I think getting some more post depth was really big for them. I like this pick. And then they went out and they grabbed my girl Alyssa Utsby, who's undrafted out of North Carolina. I was surprised to see her undrafted, right? She's been so big for the North Carolina team these past years. And North Carolina, keep in mind, was ranked number 8 in the nation at their highest point, and she was the star player. Now, they did a great job last year of swinging the ball around, but the office ran through Utsby. I love this pickup. I really hope she makes the team. And I think in the next coming weeks, it'll be really sad to see players get cut, but I love to see teams pick up an undrafted player. I love to see undrafted players make rosters. So I'm super excited for this next WNBA season. I'm excited to see who wins the ship. I think the Fever have an outstanding chance. They went insane during free agency. Brought in DeWanna Bonner. Brought in Sophie Cunningham. Kept Kelsey Mitchell. Today they just signed Aaliyah Boston to an extension. Yes, they lost Alyssa Smith, but bringing in Bonner, they're fine. They will be a dangerous team next year. They have a new coach, but in Caitlin Clark, I trust. So I like the Fever. I think the Aces are going to be nasty again this year, right? They still have Jackie Young. They then, remember, the blockbuster trade this season. They got Jewel Lloyd from the Storm. Like, wow. They still have Chelsea Gray. They still have Asia. Becky Hammond is still their head coach. This team's going to be so nasty. I'm excited to see what these young players do. I'm going to argue that this is the greatest draft class of all time, excluding the 97 and 98, like, all-star drafts. Because they were just picking players from all around the world because it was a new league. But rookie classes, this is the best one, by far. I don't know if next year will top it. Next year has some great players that'll be in the draft. I mean, Flau'jae Johnson, right? Azzi Fudd. I'm so excited. I love this. I'm so excited for the WNBA season. I love seeing my children grow up and achieve their dreams, and I wish the best of luck to all the players that were drafted. Hopefully they make their teams. Thank you guys so much for listening to The Low Show. Again, I'm your host, Lauren O'Brien. I hope you have a great day.